Okay, today we'll be working with the 7th grade Red Big Ideas book, and this is lesson 1.3. The objective is students will use the idea that a subtraction problem can be rewritten as an addition problem. The standards that are covered in this lesson are 7NS1C and D, 7NS3, and 7EE3. The book pages that you will be using out of your Red Big Ideas book are pages 16 through 19 on the hardcover book and page 14 out of the practice journal. Today we're going to be working with subtracting integers. When subtracting integers, it is easier to add addition signs between integers so that you are able to follow the same rules as addition. Okay? Remember when we worked with addition of integers, we used those sayings: same symbol, find the sum, apply the same symbol, and different symbols find the difference, apply the larger sign. Okay, today, instead of thinking of problems as 3 minus 8, sometimes when students are struggling with understanding this, if they convert it into an addition problem, it makes it a little bit easier for them. Now, the older that you get and the more comfortable you get with integers, you're going to be perfectly fine with solving this problem without rewriting it. And some of you may be there already. And then that's when you're going to say, I don't need this step. I'm going to go ahead and just do, hey, I have two different symbols in front. Those are different. I'm going to find the difference. Some of you may need to do this step, and we're just going to practice it today. And then after today, you can decide if that's a step that you need to do. So here, I went through and I put a plus sign between these, and then I made sure so that it didn't look so confusing that I put a parenthesis around that -8 or -8. Okay? The only exception to this rule of adding a plus sign is when you are subtracting a negative number. In this case, you're going to have to simplify first, and we are going to go through and actually practice that. So here's a situation where we can't just add a plus sign in between them. When we have 3 minus a -8. So we'll be practicing a step that you can use to go through and simplify this. Okay, so let's start out with the basic parts. Here we have a negative and then a -12 in parentheses. Now, right now I'm just giving you the very basics, but ultimately when you come across problems like this, it's actually going to come into play in problems like this, where we're going to have another number out in front. So right now we're just basically practicing this process right here. Okay, just to get some reps in, we're going to practice that process. So anytime we have two negative numbers next to each other, no symbol in between, and it's not an absolute value bar, but it is a parenthesis like we have right here, we're going to go ahead and look at this in terms of, hey, we have two negative symbols right next to each other. Now this only works when it's parentheses and there's not a symbol in between. Those two negative numbers right next to each other, we can take one of those negatives and flip it to make a plus sign. So this becomes +12. So our answer to that part is a +12. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this one. Two negative signs right next to each other. It really means like the opposite of -7. So if you want to read it that way, that's another way to do it. The opposite of -7 would be +7. Okay. Chunk these two together. Those two negative signs make a positive sign, so +9. And then once again, two negative signs here. Becomes a +8 or +8. Okay, so that's just practicing that one basic step. Okay, I'm trying to get you lots of reps in here so that you're understanding that really simple concept. Okay, so let's go ahead and try a couple here. I'm going to pull these ones that I have off to the side out. Oops, forgot I had my marker in my hand. Okay, so here's where we're going to go ahead and apply it now into a problem. So my first step when I look at this problem is I'm noticing that I need to simplify right here. Okay, so now when I go through and I simplify that, I've still got the -10. And then this is the concept that we just used right there. So the opposite of -7, or we combine those two negative signs and we end up with a plus sign. So now it becomes negative 10 plus 7. Different symbols, find the difference. The difference is 3. Apply the larger sign. 10's a bigger number. It had a negative symbol, so it becomes negative 3 for our answer. Okay. Let's try another one. Simplify here. That's your first step. So those two negatives make it a positive 10. The opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. 8 plus 10. Hey, that one's pretty easy. We don't even have to use our integer rules. 8 plus 10 is 18. Okay, so that one we ended up with 18. Okay, so go ahead and try this one. This one I'm going to have you do on your own. So why don't you go ahead and pause your video and work your way through this problem. Okay, so we should have ended up when we did this one with a positive 2. If you didn't get positive 2, then you're going to want to try and figure out where you made your mistakes. Okay, you can check with me, you can check with a classmate. All right, let's see what else we have over here. Okay, so that was pretty basic. Here's one where it's a little more complex. Okay, now we've added another number in there. We're still going to do the basic of simplifying those double negatives first. Okay, and then we're just going to work left to right because it'll all be addition, subtraction. So here I see that double negative. I want to simplify that. So we have 6 minus 13. These right here become a plus sign, so plus 12. There we're back to what we learned in lesson 2, where we've got more than 2 numbers in our equation. So I'm a chunker. I like to chunk numbers that have the same symbols together. So when I look at this, I like to look at it this way. There's a positive, there's a positive. No symbol in front means it's positive. So when I put those two together, 6 plus 12 gives me 18. And then I still have that minus 13 that's sitting right here. So now 18 minus 13 is going to give me 5 for an answer. Okay? Let's do another one. So here we're going to go ahead and simplify where we have those double negatives right next to each other. So I have 6. These two become plus 7. And then a minus 10. Okay? I'm going to group things together. You can work left to right. I'm just one that tends to group together. And in this case, it ends up working left to right anyway because these are both positives. So I end up with 13 minus 10. Okay, basic subtraction. You don't have to think of that as negative 10. You can think of it as 13 minus 10, which gives us 3. So we end up with 3 for that one. Okay, you are going to try this one on your own. Ho, ho, ho. Let's try and change this one up a little bit. Let's throw in an extra negative in there. I must have forgotten to put it in there when I typed it out. So we're going to make a negative sign right here. And I'll put a parenthesis here. Okay, so go through and simplify this problem. Pause your video, work through it, and then come back and give me your answer. You should have ended up when you worked through this problem with an answer of 7. Okay, if you didn't get that, check with me, check with a partner, see if you can figure out where you made your mistake. Okay, so rewriting and solving. Now this is the step that is optional after this lesson. Okay, today I want you to practice it. Some of you are going to need it. So that's why I'm gonna have everybody practice it. And some of you aren't. Okay, once you've worked with integers quite a bit, you can kind of eliminate this step just because you get used to looking at the symbols that are in front of a number. So here, we're gonna rewrite and solve this problem. The way we're gonna rewrite this is, we're gonna go ahead and add a plus sign in between our two integers. So I'm gonna look at this instead of as negative 14 minus 35. I'm gonna think of it like this, negative 14 plus a negative 35. Because now I can go through and use those little sayings, same symbol, find the sum, apply the same symbol, okay? Or different symbols, find the difference, apply the larger sign. So I am noticing in front of these, I have the same symbol, okay? So I'm gonna find the sum. So the sum of 14 and 35 is gonna give me 49. Same symbol, find the sum, apply the same symbol. Negative, because they both had a negative. Okay, this is just transferring it into something that we did back in lesson 2. So it's not like it's something brand new. So that skill that we're working on in this part of the lesson is just putting that plus sign in there and realizing that we have to keep any of the symbols that are with that number right in front of the number. All right, so let's try another one. Trying to shift this stuff out of the way. Whoops. All right, so let's look at this one. Here I have, whoa. Negative 82 minus 64. So I'm gonna sneak a plus sign right in here. It's as simple as that. Now we can think of it as addition. So here I have same or different? They're the same. So same symbols, find the sum. Now if you wanna use your calculator, that's fine. I'm not checking to see if you can add 82 plus 64. Most of you can do that anyway. So 82 plus 64 is going to give me 146. Same symbol, find the sum, because I'm going to add them. Apply the same symbol. You should have gotten negative 46 because they both had a negative sign. Negative 146. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so here they're giving us more. They're kind of combining what we just previously did. So when I see this, get rid of this little box here. I'm noticing this, first of all. Okay, I want to simplify that. I want to get rid of any of the extras that I don't need. So this becomes a plus 2. So negative 6, negative 14. Now, lots of you are going to start to say, shortly after this lesson, and some of you might already, that I don't need to add that plus sign between every single one because I'm noticing here's a negative sign and here's a negative sign. I need to find they have the same symbol. I need to find the sum. Okay. Some of you need to add this plus sign in just because right now that's the way your brain needs to see it. Okay. So now when I look at this, I've got plus signs between every single one of my numbers. Okay. So when I look at it, I see 2 of them that have a negative, so I'm going to chunk those together. That's the way I like to work it. In this case, it's the same whether I work left to right or chunk together. So same symbol, find the sum on those circles. So the sum of 14 and 6 is 20. Apply the same symbol. So it's negative 20 plus 2. Now I have different symbols, find the difference. So the difference is subtract. So 20 minus 2 is 18. Apply the larger sign. The larger digit had a negative sign here, so I need to apply that negative sign to my answer. You should have gotten negative 18. Okay, so I want you guys to try these 2 really quickly. Shift this down and enlarge it. I forgot I had a box over there. Okay, so go through and solve these 2 problems. Pause your video and check back after you've worked through them to see if you ended up with the correct answers. You should have gotten 2 for this one. And for the second one, you should have ended up with a -1. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. And once again, if you didn't get those 2 answers, see me, check with a classmate, see if you can figure out at what point you're making your mistake. Because if you don't check and investigate that, you're going to keep making that same mistake on every one of those problems. Okay, so the last thing we have in this lesson is to work with evaluation. In evaluation, you have to make sure that that's where you substitute in a number for a letter. And they're always going to tell us what each letter is worth. So here is the information they're giving us for what each letter is going to be worth. Okay, so we've got R is -12, S is 41, and T is -88. Now the key thing to remember, now that we're working with integers, you must remember to write all symbols that are present in the original expression. You cannot leave negative signs off just because the number that you're substituting in is negative. Okay, so that's a key thing to remember, and that's the most common made mistake that kids perform. Okay, so here, if I enlarge this, I'm going to substitute in first. I'm not going to worry about the absolute value bars. I'm not going to worry about the negative signs, but if these negative signs are there, I have to also put them in my equation. So when I rewrite this, I'm going to bring these down so I don't forget them. And I have a minus sign here. Okay, now I can go through and write out what R was worth. R was worth -12, so -12. And I don't want to forget my little absolute value bars here. I'm going to write those really quick so I don't forget about them. Okay, T is worth -88. Okay, take note, I kept this original negative. I did not get rid of it just because that 88 had a negative sign. Now I'm going to go through and simplify. Okay, so when I simplify, ooh, I see a double negative right here, which becomes plus. And I still have a -12 here. Okay, so now I'm going to think of that as its own problem, and then I'll deal with the absolute value bars. Those absolute value bars are telling you solve everything inside until you get down to a single digit answer, or not single digit, but a single answer. And then work off of absolutely how far is that number from 0. So -12 plus 88, those are different symbols. I'm going to find the difference. See how these are different, a negative and a positive? So the difference between 88 and 12 would give me, let's see, 78 would be -10, so -2 more would give me 74. Okay, so now this is what I have left over. This negative sign, an absolute value, and I just said that the answer to this here was 74, and it's a positive 74 because the larger digit had a positive in front of it, so 74. No, not 74, by golly, 76. I don't know why I said 74. Okay, so now when I go through and I simplify, let's see, an absolute value of 76 is absolutely how far from 0? It is 76 places from 0. Now I apply that negative sign that's on the outside. Remember, we practiced that in lesson, I think it was lesson 1. Okay, we practiced that concept. So here, we're now going to apply our negative. This ends up being -76. Okay, lots of steps. Evaluation is not an easy thing. You have to remember to include those original symbols. Okay, you have to work your way through. These are great ones to go through, solve, check with a partner. Okay, kind of check to see that you filled in everything correctly, because there's lots of spots that you can make really simple mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring these 2 negative signs down just so I don't forget them. Most common made mistake. Nice thing is no absolute value bars on this one. Okay, so now I'm just going to substitute in. Okay, T was worth -88. So -88. S was worth 41. So I'm going to put a 41 here. And R was negative 12. So I have to write a negative 12. Okay, take note. I kept these negatives in the problem. Now I have to go through and simplify where I can. So this is what we were just working on the previous slide and the slide before. Okay, simplify. Get rid of those double negatives that are right next to each other. Now you guys were used to seeing a little parenthesis around those. The parenthesis doesn't have to be there. Okay, so I have negative 88 minus 41. These two negatives become a positive, so plus 12. Now, if you're somebody that needs to see this plus sign between these two negative numbers, then you are going to have to decide that that's what you need to do. Some of you are going to be beyond that. You don't need to put the plus sign in there because you're going to look at each of these as individual integers and you're going to look at the symbol in front of them to combine. So when I look at it, I look and say, hey, these both have a negative sign. Okay, so I'm going to chunk them together. I'm going to put them together. Same symbol, find the sum. So 88 plus 41 gives me 129. Now they both have a negative sign. Same symbol, find the sum, apply the same symbol. So that's negative 129 plus 12 now. Okay, different symbols, find the difference. So 129 minus 12 gives me 117 for the digit. Now I have to decide if it's positive or negative. Look at your digits here in your original. Which is bigger, 129 or 12? Well, 129 is, it had a negative sign, so it's a negative answer. Negative 117 is what you should have gotten for that one. All right, last one. I want you to go through, practice your substituting in, and solve for this. So if you need to pause the video for some extra time, go ahead and do that. These take time. Okay, so don't forget, most common made mistake. Kids forget to take these original symbols and include them. So that would be my first step, is to go through and make sure that I write those in. So go ahead, pause your video and work your way through this problem. You should have ended up with, when you solved this out, positive 35. Okay, if you didn't get that, check with myself, check with somebody else. First thing to check would be, did I write everything down? Did I remember my negatives that were in the original problems? Okay, then you're gonna have to go through, did I combine my integers correctly? All right, this is a complex process. It takes time to get comfortable with it, okay? So you have to practice those skills.